You are listening to An Awakening podcast. This is an adult conversation about local, worldly and otherworldly topics. Be prepared, there is some swearing in the podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome to An Awakening. This week we have a woman with us here who's concerned about a few things I'm actually very concerned about myself. So I'm just going to let her speak for herself and there we go.
Hello, my name is Harriet and I live near Newtownabbey and we have 3 big pig farms in our area and that's my main concern at the moment.
Why are you concerned?
About the pig farms?
Yeah.
Well, there's one existing in Monkstown which has about 10,000 animals in it. That's what it's licensed for. And we get a big smell that comes up fairly much all the time.
I've actually have friends lived in that direction and tell me about that. It's pretty horrendous as it is.
And local people have been complaining for years and years and years and saying, look, the smell is too much. It's destroying our houses. It's destroying our lives. It's bad for our lungs. And nobody ever, no matter how often you tell the department or the council, nobody does anything about it. So the man who owns that put in an application for another pig farm back in 2015, and he wanted to put 30,000 more pigs on Reahill, which is just up the hill from Mossley and Mossley Hockey Club and the train station and everything. And everybody that lives all around Mossley and New Mossley and the whole Newtownabbey area were really upset. 30,000 pigs on a hillside, knowing the smell that we already get from Monkstown, which is about half a mile away as the crow flies. This was just too much. So there was a lot of objections and it went in. There was predetermination meetings. There was 250,000 people objected online and 1,010 people wrote in to the council. And when it came up to the actual night to decide on the planning, there was, I think, 2 or 3 people who wrote in favour of it. Everybody else was against it. And they passed it. But not for the 30,000 pigs.
Who passed it?
The planners and the planning people in Antrim and Newtownabbey Borough Council. There was lawyers, a big fancy lawyer from London came over to make the case to have it and brought his juniors and everybody with him. That's really difficult for local people to work against because you're only given 3 minutes to make your objection. When you're
an individual is given
when we stand to make an objection in the council, you're given 3 minutes and you have to get all your objection into that 3 minutes. And they bring experts, and then if the experts are questioned, it can be stretched out like how long is a piece of string. So it's very, very difficult for any people to object to planning in Northern Ireland. But the net result was the thing was passed for 17,500 or just under 17,500 pigs to go up on that hill. And the main objections were there's a big reservoir, there's anaerobic digesters, and there was 17,500 pigs really close to local homes and being on a hill, the possibility of flooding, and we have seen already water coming down the roads and everything.
I've seen that myself.
Because of this weather that we're having. The reservoir isn't built. We don't know if the anaerobic digester is working or not.
What's an anaerobic digester?
They put all the pig poo along with a load of silage into it, and then it's supposed to make methane, for which they get paid loads of money. A bit like RHI and ROC's payments.
No.
Yeah. There's issues with it. The auditor, NI Audit Office, is looking at anaerobic digesters in Northern Ireland because there's a lot of issues, big financial issues, way more financially than what there is to do with the RHI scandal. It's a bigger thing. That's kind of upcoming, but RHI's on at the moment.
So how many pigs is there at the minute? And then they want an extra many?
There's 10,000. He's licensed.
And they want another 17,000.
He's licensed for 10,000 in Monkstown. He's got permission to build a site that will hold just under 17,500 on Reahill. And then there's a third farm belonging to a different entity about a mile away as the crow flies. And it currently has a whole selection of pigs, just under 5,000 pigs in it. And they want to change it to breeding sows only. So that would turn out, it would be just under 3,000 breeding sows, 2,770, which would turn out roughly 70-odd thousand piglets per annum. So, and then the other 2 farms between them would produce another roughly 70,000 pigs per annum. So in an area which has a population of around 60-odd thousand, we're going to have about 150,000 pigs per annum.
Holy moly.
Which is completely insane because it's a built-up area.
Yeah, it is very built up.
There's schools, there's nurseries, there's play groups, there's elderly people, there's people with lung conditions, kidney conditions and all those things.
There's
and
people
all
who
of
want
that.
to sell their houses.
Yeah,
at some
well,
stage.
it affects all of that. Yeah,
Yeah, because that's going to really affect house prices.
One of our big issues is we've been trying to get the council to put a bond on the site, which would force the owner of the Reahill site to always have an insurance, so that if flooding came down the hill, if the wall that keeps the slurry in or the water in burst and it all came down the hill, that the houses below them would be protected. But the council are very slow to sort of do anything about it. It's an uphill task. We've been fighting it since 2015. We're now in 2020.
Why do you think a council are going for this? Is it because there is people going to be listening, they're going to be saying, we need meat, we need pork, you know?
Yeah, I mean, people eat meat, but the thing about pigs that live in a factory situation like this is the same as chickens that live in factory situations. They don't have any kind of a piggy life.
No.
These little pigs, their mummies are in cages.
This is my concern. I don't live in Newtownabbey, you know, but at the same time, I have that concern for the welfare of the animals myself, because I love pigs. I do. I think they're a beautiful animal. I think they're very intelligent. I've had different experiences with pigs for years, and the way they're treated is pretty shocking. These cages for mothers and stuff, they can't move. Yeah. And what was seen there, where was that? McGuckian's
farm at Ballymena. It was disgusting. That has red tractor standard.
Yes, well, see, when this all happened there, I actually get on to kick up, and I phoned up with Don Donald, and he says, no, we don't deal with pork here, we just do. I said, what do you mean you don't? Who does it? And they give me this red thing, and I get onto their site and sent an email and never got a reply. Yeah. Not even an acknowledgement that it sent an email. Yeah.
I mean, the issue with pigs in factory farms is that the mothers are caged while they have the babies, and at about 28 days the babies are taken off them. Mothers are got pregnant again as soon as possible, and they either never leave the cage or they're back in the cage shortly before they give birth again. So the mothers don't live very long because they're producing piglets. 2.5 litres per annum is what those sows produce. And
is that pumping them out as quick as
pumping them out as quick as possible. That's absolutely it. And so their bodies are exhausted in no time. And a pig should live for well into its teenage years. And these 40. Pigs only live for maybe 4 years. 40. These ones only live for a few years. They don't get out of single figures ever.
You don't see the sky. They don't eat grass.
And the babies then are put in these units depending on their size and weight, and they're grown up. So by the time those little piglets are about 4 to 5 months old, they're in a truck and off to a slaughterhouse. Yeah. And in the slaughterhouse, there's one in Ballymena, there's one over near Cookstown. They're actually gassed to death. Yeah. It's dreadful. And, people have gone. There's Pig Save people and activists who have gone and recorded it, and they put it up on Facebook and other social media, what's going on there. I've seen it, yeah. It's really, really heartrending. Yeah. But
there used to be a place in Newry.
Yeah.
I was only young at the time. I was a young lad.
Yeah.
And I remember the guy says, sure, take it down to around the unit when, we're waiting, your order isn't right. Holy smoke.
Yeah. But, I mean, the pigs never run out in a field. They have no life. They're in these pens according to their weight. Their tails are docked so that they don't bite each other's tails. They have nothing to do. They don't have bedding to lie on. They don't have straw to play in. They can't move around in a field. They can't dig or root or do any of the things the pigs can do. And they can't even form their normal social groups. Yeah. So anybody who buys red tractor standard or...
It doesn't mean anything at red tractor, does it?
It basically means they have lived endured an existence in a factory farm. Yeah. It's not a standard. Yeah. If you want to buy meat and eat meat, you really need to look for organic or outdoor reared or free range. Yeah. Anything else is highly suspect.
Oh, absolutely.
That's where you have to go.
I don't eat meat myself, but I don't knock anybody that does. My family, my family would eat meat and that, It's just my choice. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons, and I'm a bit weird, is because I believe that if you have an animal and you treat it badly and it's suffering and it's got all sorts of ailments and whatever, that pass on to you in some shape or form. Mm-hmm.
Well, the animals are medicated, but the way the medication is done, a vet will sign a cert and it goes to the feed mill wherever the feed comes from, and the medication is added to the feed, and then it comes in a lorry or a truck, and it's fed into the animals. So the whole team of pigs that's in there gets it, or the whole team in that pen get it.
Yeah.
It's not tailored to this pig is getting this feed. It's whatever's there gets it. So there was a thing about antibiotic concerns, and the thing about antibiotics is with increasing resistance in humans to antibiotics, one of the ways that humans are so resistant to antibiotics is because there's traces in the food, and it's
everywhere.
coming through in meat and chicken and pigs and things like that. But then they said they were bringing down, the farming side said they were bringing down the use of antibiotics. But what they had done was they'd actually switched to antimicrobials, and the use of those went way, way up. So that it came out they were actually using more. So it still doesn't help. It's the way they're farmed. If you farm animals in miserable groups like that,
you have to keep pumping them.
You have to keep pumping them with antibiotics and other unnatural stuff. So we're not eating healthy food. It's really bad for people to be eating this.
Even something as simple as milk. You know, I read a report on the milk, and it was shown that in Northern Ireland, they allow, this is what is allowed, 12 different antibiotics and up to 2 million pus corpuscles per litre. Now, I don't want pus corpuscles over my cornflakes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't want 12 antibiotics in my milk.
Yeah.
That's basically why I stopped drinking milk.
Yeah.
You know, because as you say, we're building up this resistance to antibiotics, and it's to do with our food. It's because what they're pumping into the cattle, the chickens, the pigs, everything else. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
But I mean, the individual that wanted this farm on Reahill wanted 30,000 pigs, and then he was cut back. He volunteered to change it to 17,500
He probably wanted
pigs.
17,500 in the first place.
But you have to add that to the 10,000 that there is at the Monkstown site as well, which basically means he's got his 30,000.
Yeah.
Because 17 and that's 27,500, and they can increase by a percentage every year. So he can easily get to 30,000 or more without having to go through excess planning or anything else. One of the things about pigs and keeping pigs in factory farms and things like that is virus crossing and virus mutating between pigs and humans, because pigs are only 3% different in DNA from humans. So you have things like swine flu, where it can mutate and travel between the pigs and the humans and back. And at the moment, if humans get normal flu, not swine flu, they're supposed to, and they work with pigs, they're supposed to declare it so that they don't go and work with the pigs to give that virus a chance to go back and change itself again by mutating in the species. But we don't know if they actually do declare, or do they just go to work for the day. Now we come to more interesting stuff like the new virus that's in town called coronavirus. So we again have been asking some questions, and we haven't got any answers yet from DARA or from Public Health Agency in Northern Ireland, or those kind of people who are supposed to keep us right. They're the experts. But we need to know, can coronavirus travel between humans and factory farmed animals like pigs? Because they're genetically, what would you say, or they're
weakened.
Because of their environment, they're kind of weak.
Yeah.
So they're maybe more prone to catching something that's brought in on a human. This is where biosecurity comes in. But if so, this has to be explored. And if coronavirus is a big thing, should people who work in factory farm conditions be screened or checked in some way before they're going in to work with these animals? Because if this virus is mutating, it's related with SARS and MERS and stuff like that. If it can go into animals, that's allegedly where it came from. There's stories about bats and pangolins and different things.
Yeah.
So if it can go between animals and humans, can it go back the other way between humans and animals? And if it can get into something like pigs, and then they go to the factory and they're slaughtered and they're eaten, is it still around? Is it still able to survive? Are people going to be potentially infected? I mean, African swine fever was around this year, and it stays even in the processed food, because it was caught in Belfast City Airport, where in the international airport rather, people came in and there was a shipment or whatever and it tested positive for African swine fever. So we don't want to see a situation where this could go into the pig herds and then come back into the food chain
A few
for people
years
to eat
ago,
and continue the infection.
I had an old friend called to see me, Desi. He was a lovely, big, gentle creature. He really beautiful man he was. And he called in, and as he's leaving, he says, "Get away home here, get a shower to go and see a doctor in the morning." I said, "What are you going to see a doctor for?" He says, "I'm going to get my swine flu job." Mm-hmm. And of course, I let on him. What are you doing that for? HG? And away he went anyway. The next day, we got a call from his wife that Desi had taken very ill. And we went up to see him up in Dundonald Hospital. And he was in intensive care. He was real bad way. And we come home, and the next morning we got a rap on the door and 2 people in suits to tell us that we had been quarantined to our house because he'd died of swine flu he'd got from the injection.
But the injection is supposed to be weakened.
He still died from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was all kept very, very quiet. Amazingly quiet.
Yeah.
We were confined, and it says, I said, "How are we going to get a grub?" He says, "You have to get somebody come, leave it at the door, and then they can phone you at the door," and that's what we had to do for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So of course they can go across barriers, and whether there's corona, that's a hell of a good point, because people are in a bit of a panic at the minute.
It is now officially a pandemic.
Yeah.
So it is a concern.
Yeah, and we're recording this, and just today, they've closed all the schools in the south of Ireland, stopped the flights going to America, except from the UK for some reason. There's been a whole lot of restrictions, and as you're saying, it should be looked at. That can we get it directly from animals? Can they get it from us?
Well, I mean, it was animals. It appears that gave it to humans in China, in Hunan or whatever that Wuhan, that town is called, and then the reason that it's so poor in Italy, I think, is because with the textile industry, there's a big crossover between Wuhan and Italy for textiles and fabrics and silks and fashions and all that stuff.
Very elderly population.
And Italy has an older, and they're completely overwhelmed in Italy. Now the south of Ireland has taken really proactive steps, and like when Foot and Mouth was in Ireland many years ago, the north of Ireland joined up with the south to deal with the issue. But today they're not. Mm-hmm. The north of Ireland is doing whatever it is doing in England, which is very little. And the south of Ireland is taking proactive steps. But we have a porous border, so this is really silly. Yeah. And but it's our fabulous politicians at their best.
Yeah. Northern Ireland, I look around. I went on a wee bit of a tour there a few years ago. And I drove around all over the place. Did I see anybody growing anything? You know what I mean?
Oh, there are. There are allotments, yeah.
Allotments, but I mean farmers.
There are allotments.
We've all this land and there's nothing growing on it. Yeah. And when you think of it, we don't have fracking or anything here yet. Yet. Well, they're going to try. I don't think it'll ever happen.
There's people called Tamboran who want to frack under the guise of Fermanagh gas.
But actually this coronavirus is just starting to hit. Mm-hmm. Has actually destroyed the fracking industry. It's not worth a penny at the minute. It's going to close a lot of these fracking companies down because they're all on sort of like borrowed time and money anyway from banks and stuff. So they're in trouble. Yeah. Which is
Well,
but the thing about here, I know in Ireland, we have all this lovely land. We've got farmers. Mm-hmm. Well, I think the farmers have taken a hit the last load of years. The government, I think, doesn't seem to be doing much for them. Well, I don't know. But what I look at is, this could be the organic bread basket of Europe.
We should be.
Okay, but we have the beautiful land.
We have the capabilities and the facilities to be an organic, producing country, and to be supplying, the Rolls Royce of products to the world.
Exactly.
And to our cuisine and making Northern Ireland something really exclusive and special. That's there. The problem is that farming seems to be going down the line of cheaper and more intense and not listening.
Yeah, but when you have pressure from the big companies like Tesco's and the people that,
Yeah, but you don't have to supply the big companies. I mean,
I know this.
I work, where I work, I see people from other organic farms and There's people like Pheasants Hill, there's people like Mullins Organic Farm, there's people like
Bay.
Helen's Bay Organics, Ballylagan Organic Farm, which has a coffee shop and everything at it. There's quite a few of them out there. Browgammon up in Ballymena is another one, or up in Ballycastle rather. So they're there, but they need more recognition, and that's the farming model that more farming and industry should be using in Northern Ireland, because the nitrogen loads that's coming from all the slurry from the likes of pigs and chickens, especially, well, with pigs it's ammonias and phosphates, heavy metals, antibiotic residue and nitrates, and that gets spread on the ground as organic manure because it's come out of a pig's bum. They call it organic because it's gone through a pig. And that's spread in the ground, but you have the compaction from the big vehicles who are spreading it. And in an effort now to reduce the ammonia levels, they're actually using special nozzles to lay it on the surface of the soil. But you will see loads of seagulls and crows and everything come in as soon as slurry's gone on the ground. That's because the earthworms and the microbes that are in the soil have come up. They can't cope. It's burning their bodies and destroying their little habitats. And so the soil is gradually becoming poorer and poorer. It's losing its integrity and all the millions of microbes and little bugs and things that make it up. And then that slurry, then if you get rain, it runs off into the rivers. And our water bodies in Northern Ireland are critical. They're really, really critical. They are so poor because of slurry runoff and phosphates and ammonias and things, nitrogen, it becomes in the water, nitrates. The nitrates eventually dissipate, but the phosphates don't. It stays around for much longer, and the phosphate figure is rising. And what we don't know enough about really is the long-term impact that that's going to have on all the invertebrates in the water bodies. If you start damaging the algae and the little larvae and things that are in the water bodies, your river becomes a sterile and dead zone. And then your migrating fish or anything else that's coming in, frogs and things that use the river, they're all going to be starved or destroyed. So the whole food chain goes. When you take out those basic elements at the bottom of the food chain, the whole food chain goes all the way up. And that's the problem. And farmers look out and they see lovely green grass and they think that's great, but it's like empty calories. It's like having a McDonald's for breakfast. It's not that filling. It's not substantial enough. You'd be better with shorter, slightly greyer grass that had more actual quality in it than this amazing green stuff.
That's chemically produced.
It's an artificial production. And some of the nitrates and things, the form that they're in when they're going on the soil isn't necessarily a form that the plants can take up. So yes, people say grasses need nitrogens and phosphates, but they have to come in the right type. And if they don't come in the right chemical construction, then the plants can't utilize them. And that's how they just sit there, they load the soil and it becomes toxic, or they get washed off into the water bodies.
We seem to be taking a hit in Northern Ireland at the minute with different environmental things. There's a lot of groups about, my personal one, this Ellen McGee, the gas taverns, I'm really against that, because of the knock-on effect it could have with the sand eels. It's with sand eels breed, and if they're moved on with the salt that they extrude out, will it puff and seed?
It's not just
what happens to raffling? What happens to that? What happens to this? Is it the common skate that comes in? I think it is.
The uncommon common skate.
The common skate, I've never caught one.
They're pretty big. I mean, there's a guy who has some pictures up on Facebook, and they're massive.
I used to fish. I don't anymore, but I used to fish a lot. And the quality of the rivers and all went down in the last 10 years. Something shocking. I don't think it'd be actually worth going out fishing now. If you were an angler, And if we'll get that, we've got the gold mining down in Noma with different places. There's so many things happening at the minute, it's bloody awful.
There's a group in Rostrevor called Rostrevor Action Respecting the Environment. It's on Facebook and Twitter. And that particular group there was a plan in to build a nursing home and hotels and everything at the edge of the Oakwood in Rostrevor. And it's been through the High Court and judicial review and various things. But even the experts who come out to count the trees, because it's the last Oakwood, it's really, really important.
The last Oakwood were?
I think in Northern Ireland, but it's a remnant of Oakwood.
In Rostrevor?
It's absolutely critically important piece of Oakwood. And there's trees there that go back quite a long time, but they didn't even count all the trees. The experts missed them. So in fact, last year what happened was, I think it's the Woodland Trust put out a competition every year for Tree of the Year all over the UK. There's one in England, Scotland, Wales and one in Northern Ireland. So the team in Rostrevor put their tree in that had not been counted by the judge or by the experts from the departments, and made a whole campaign around it, and it won Tree of the Year for Northern Ireland. It's now known as the Invisible Tree in Rostrevor.
Holy smoke, yeah.
Seriously.
What about you're talking about trees. Did I see something that the council's going to plant 1 million fruit trees or something? Or am I going nuts?
No, well, there's a scheme afoot to plant 18 million trees, I think, in the next 10 years. Mr. Poots was out with some kids the other day, but when you actually drill it down, only half of it is going to be sustainable trees. And the other half of it will probably be Sitka spruce plantation or something like that. Yeah. So he's not really planting 18 million trees to help recover our environment. He's actually really planting.
Have you seen the Phantom Planter?
Oh, the Phantom Planter.
Isn't he brilliant? I'm hoping to get him one.
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah. Then there's Stop the Limavady Pig Factory, which is a similar campaign to our one in Newtownabbey. And it's like the pig farm where they want to put in just under 3,000 breeding sows. The one in Limavady is about the same size, and it would produce another 75,000 or so piglets into the environment every year, looking for places for them to be reared on really, really fast and go to factories. So the pollution up around the Roe Valley and all that sort of protected area up there would be huge, because all that pig slurry has to be dealt with. And there's been an ongoing campaign. The Calhame one and that one at Limavady work together to try and make people understand the damage that it's going to cause. You have to do a profit and loss way off, basically. And you know, yes, a farmer's going to make some money from fast growing pigs, but that's the plus side. On the minus side, you have the loss of your habitats, the loss of your soil, the loss of your rivers, all your tourist revenue, and everything that comes with that. All your history is just wiped away. So is it really a profit? Is it really something that's worth having? You have to do. And
the people sitting in our gardens having to smell this constantly. Yeah,
well, you have health issues that come with it. That's a cost. That's part of the, on the loss side, and the cost to the taxpayer and the exchequer for ill health and everything is all has to be factored into that. So I don't know that they do the right sums when they say, yes, it's going to bring more jobs. It'll bring 3 more jobs, but it'll actually take away maybe 20 other jobs.
What jobs are going to produce? Because the factory, it's automated. It's not going to produce too many jobs.
Well, there'll be a job for somebody driving slurry in or slurry out. There'll be a job for somebody driving feed in. There'll be a job for somebody watching the cameras, minding the pigs. And there'll be a job for somebody in a slaughterhouse. So that's the plus side. And then on the minus side, you have everything that you lose. So I don't think they do good math. Because you can't just look at one side of the equation. You have to always look and see
the balance equation,
what the other side of it is. And then Cloughan Point is a beautiful scenic point just outside Carrickfergus, between Carrickfergus and Whitehead. And you can see a big long line, if you drive that road way out into the sea, a black kind of line, which was put in for the war, was actually put in to bring fuel in at the time of the war, so that we wouldn't get bombed with everything being in one place. But these people want to put a huge big jetty in there and have a truck every 4 minutes, an empty fuel tanker every 4 minutes and a full fuel tanker every 4 minutes, 24/7, going through Carrickfergus from Cloughan Point on that twisty road into town and onto the motorways to disperse this stuff all over Ireland, north and south. The quantities and the pollution would be just inestimable, huge. But so we'll have to see. I mean, it's through it. They've put it in. The applicant has put it in so that it's something like 1 litre less than the maximum amount that they can get planning from the council from, and that would be Mid and East Antrim Council. If it was just the teensiest bit bigger, they'd have to go to the department and get permission from Stormont. So that this has been done to try and play the system and see if they can get under the system. So it hasn't come up in front of the planners yet. So we have to wait and see what happens. just down the road from that again, these are all in the area where I live.
I'm just amazed that they're all in such a small area.
Yeah, just down the road from that again, there's the Gas Cavern Campaign, which is a company. They were in England many, many years ago known as, I think, Portland Gas, and they failed, and then they had taken out a fracking permit in Woodburn Forest, which a lot of people will remember.
I remember
it caused huge upset. The local MP thought it was a great idea. Nobody else
did. Local
did.
MP? Biggs?
Sammy Wilson.
Sammy Wilson,
Sammy
brains of
thought it was great.
Britain.
And they were up in Woodburn Forest, and there was people came from all over the world and from all over Ireland to object to this. And it was very, very difficult because it's a protected water catchment in Woodburn Forest. It supplies the water from Carrickfergus all the way into Belfast, most of Belfast city centre, and up to Antrim and a few other places as well. And that was at risk from the chemicals from a fracking company. So they did put in a rig. They got one sort of well that they were drilling.
Test well.
And then it all kind of went wrong because two things happened. We think they probably hit salt, and the rig didn't go very well, but the backers had had enough of the adverse publicity, so it went away.
It's all salt out there. It's all salt down there.
There's a lot of salt down there.
There's a big salt cavern goes right out to the sea.
Well, there's a salt layer that goes from there all the way across to Germany.
Germany,
it's a huge geological thing under the ground. It's like a fold in the earth. And then the people who had that thing in Woodburn Forest had put in to have gas caverns in Island Magee. All this area around Island Magee has so many protections. It's got protections for birds, protections for the marine environment, protections for scenery. I count ASSIs, ASSIs, all sorts of things. And there's really rare species and things there. So
plus it's beautiful.
Oh, it's very beautiful. And Game of Thrones was filmed just across from it.
Never seen it.
When they were Macklemore, when they did the White Wall.
I've never seen Game of Thrones.
Oh, you've missed out. So these people want to put in up to 7 caverns. Well, depending on who you read, 2 caverns, 7 caverns, 8 caverns, 15 caverns, 22 caverns. You pick, because they can't seem to make their mind up. And each cavern would be the height of almost 3 Harland and Wolff cranes. So if you can imagine that height and the dimension of the width of that crane base, times 7 or whatever out there is shocking.
I was actually interested in it myself because to me, I love Portmuck. I love around that. I go down there and sit and just chill out. It's a beautiful place. Plus, the Rinket does the best ice cream in the world.
Everybody knows the Rinket does great ice cream.
My understanding of it is that they've burrowed out all this salt in these caverns, and once they release that salt into the local environment, it's going to make the water way too saline for the local local fish, local environment.
Well, the plants as well. It's not just the fish. The comment from the company is anything that can move away will move away. But there's lots of things that can't move away. The algae and the seaweeds and things can't move away.
Sandals.
And when the likes of the common skate, which is a protected and very uncommon species, when they lay their egg cases, they're attached, or they're round in the rocks and the weeds. They can't move away. So the extermination of those kind of things. Things like sand eels, which the puffins come there. It's Northern Ireland's only land-based colony of puffins. There's rosy terns, which are very, very almost extinct. They're really, really rare. And there's a pair that nest on Blue Circle Island. A pair. And they successfully rear chicks there. So that has to be protected. Then you have dolphins and whales and other things that swim up and down. You've got harbour porpoise and things. All those things are in that area. And there's other interesting aquatic things down in the sea as well that us on the surface don't see, but they're really important species.
I've actually dived around there.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
So the concentrated saline, which would go on for quite an undetermined period of time, pouring into the ocean, is huge because it will just destroy all that wildlife. And they've spent, Mid and East Antrim have spent considerable sums, many millions, creating the Gobbins Path or restoring the Gobbins Path, and thousands of people come to see the puffins and the nesting colonies and the kittiwakes. And if you put all that salt in there, There'll be nothing to see.
The incinerator, could you explain a wee bit about that? And Hightown Road, that's in Belfast.
Hightown Road is up in Glengormley, and it's up past schools and different things. And there's this plan to build a huge, massive incinerator up there to take kind of all of Northern Ireland's rubbish and burn it. So you have the toxic pollutants that would come out of this, and then you have a vast amount of lorry loads of rubbish trekking in and out of there all the time. And then where does all the ash and whatever's left over from this incinerator go? It's an inappropriate location for a whole bunch of reasons, and you've got the huge traffic, and you've got the fact that, just like the pig farms, it's a built-up community, and these are not appropriate places to put these kind of toxic industries. They never should be. But there is a campaign, NOARC 21, not on the Hightown, and I think those are the guys to give you the full lowdown on that.
The Hightown have it started building anything yet, or
No.
is it they've just put in plan permission for it?
They put it in, and then it was to be signed off, and then what happened was Stormont got suspended for 3 years, so it's been sort of sitting, and we thought it had been dead and buried, and they've resurrected it, and they're trying to find a way to bring it back. So, yeah.
Just wanted to keep
It
an eye
hasn't
on.
gone away.
Want to keep an eye on.
It's absolutely, yeah. The team.
I wouldn't like to be living up there.
The Hightown team are really good guys, and they can give you all the data on
I'll
it.
have a chat, man.
Yeah.
We seem to be under some sort of attack. Is it? There seems to be an awful lot of things all at the same time.
Yeah.
Is that because Stormont was suspended and like we've got a build up?
No, it's not because Stormont was suspended. The reason that Northern Ireland is under attack is because these companies all around the world, whether they're gold mining companies or big corporates that lease out ground to put pigs or chickens on, or whether they're people who want to build incinerators or whatever, they talk to each other. They spend their time finding countries and locations where there is poor governance or lax laws. They have big guys who do nothing else but sit there and read the paperwork all day and work this out. And then they will go to those countries. That's why they go to relatively poor countries who haven't got much, and they wave a kind of a magic wand in front of them, and the people actually end up end up worse off every single time.
Every time.
Once they've extracted everything they can extract and destroyed the area and impoverished the community, they're gone. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether it's gold mining or whether it's growing pigs or chickens or some other thing. That's what they do. Pension funds look for these places as well. That's why they're in the RHI and in the anaerobic digesters, because they look for places where there's weaknesses in the law. And they see the gaps and they go, oh, we'll make a load of money in there, and nobody's going to tell us how, because they're useless, and they just come in and they flatter the powers that be at the top, and everybody goes, jobs. And they don't look at the negatives, they only look at the word jobs, and then the mess is left. There's nowhere in the world that I can think of that you could go look at where mining has taken place or an extractive industry and has ever left it better than it was before they went in. Nowhere.
No, I agree with that. I was actually very interested in fracking when it was all, and I really went into it deep. The wee video they made was it Belcoo?
Yeah.
The kids made.
Yeah.
Fracking in Fermanagh, I think it was called.
Frack
That was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, that there really woke me up, and then I started looking at American stuff. As you say, nowhere benefited. It was all left with the pollution, we're left with all the heavy metals, we're left with everything, and just people walk away. See,
they're not just looking for gold. There's some minerals and things that they're looking for using, like cobalt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there are parts of Northern Ireland where they can find, there's a telemetric thing. You see this helicopter flying around with a kind of a square net underneath it. That's what that's doing. It's analysing the ground for what's underneath. And then sometimes you get people come, you'll find them on your land and they've got a chart and they're going, oh, we're just checking and we're looking for such and such. And everybody has the right to say, get off my ground and don't come back. But people don't realise that you can throw them off. They have no right to be on anybody's field without express permission up front.
I've actually noticed them doing it. They've actually been doing that. They just walk on the land. Sorry.
Yeah, throw them off. Absolutely. And don't be shy about it. Yeah. But they should be gone.
We've covered a lot of stuff and most of it's very down. Is there any good news on the environmental front? Is there anything like we can sort of say, well, that's a success, that's good, that's well done, or is that asking for too much?
I think the good news is how all the groups work together from different campaigns that are going on.
Yeah.
We support each other in the different campaigns. We share information.
Mm-hmm.
There's one coming up where the Sperrins people are all going to walk to Stormont at the end of the month, assuming we can walk to Stormont at the end of the month. And it's over a Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I will be joining in on the Monday, and hopefully there will be thousands of people going to Stormont at the end of March for that.
And do you have any politicians that are in any way helpful? Give them a mention. If there's anybody that has stood out, or is anybody in your corner?
Well, we have people like Extinction Rebellion who are amazing people, and they are inventive, and it's all about do no harm but get the message out there. So you don't do negative stuff. You go out there and you do interesting things. You wear masks or whatever, or you dance in the street, or you all dress in red, or you lie somewhere to make the point. So they're absolutely incredible, and they support everybody. And then there are some politicians, but there's also a really important group which is Friends of the Earth, and they are almost like the centre of everybody's world, because it's a tiny team. There's only about 5 people in it, but they're on top of so many things, and they can engage as an NGO. They can engage expertise and give us dispassionate information and support, which we find very difficult to get from politicians. I think there's politicians like the Green Party, like People Before Profit, and like the Alliance Party, who are very positive and open to engagement with us. And we have found as well, in our case with the pig farms, that the Sinn Féin people and the SDLP have been really supportive as well. The DUP, some of them are supportive, but it's not everybody. And the UUP are very farming oriented. So that's how it breaks down for us. But then you go to the gas caverns, and the UUP and the DUP have been very supportive of the campaign out there, as have the Green Party, and they're helping them out. And they're helping Clock and Point as well. And even Sinn Féin have said that they are supportive of keeping those gas caverns out.
Good.
But then you go to the west of the province where you've got the gold mining, and you'll only get the Green Party. It's very difficult to get anybody else. So it does kind of depend on what the project is and where it is as to who you're going to get.
I don't have much faith in politicians, to be honest with you, but I know People Before Profit. I know Jerry Kelly and Jerry Carroll. Jerry Carroll, for God's sake. No, I've had a few dealings with him, and he's always been very straightforward, very honest lad.
Jerry's really good. Yeah. I see him at a few things now.
Well, that's at least there's somebody in your corner.
Yeah.
You're not fighting it all on your own.
Yeah.
But the DUP end of things, I can see it being a bit sticky. If you're getting any help at all from them, very good. That's brilliant.
We have an amazing and supportive local DUP councillor who has been incredible for us. And he's called Stephen Ross, and he's been absolutely amazing for us in Antrim and Newtownabbey.
That's great.
But when you get higher up the DUP food chain, it becomes more difficult.
Absolutely. It'll be more difficult tomorrow when the RHI things comes out.
Well, they're not in America, they're here for it. If people want to get involved in what's going on, or they're concerned about their meat or the gold mining or whatever it is that's going on in their area, all they have to do is go and have a hunt on Facebook or on Twitter. There's almost always some sort of a campaign there, and it doesn't require anything other than sometimes they just want you to write a letter or annoy a local politician or something and make your point known.
I'm good at annoying local politicians. I'm an expert in it.
And I mean, sometimes it's something simple like handing out leaflets or just being there to support something and say, I'm not keen on this. You don't have to be a radical activist or anything. People don't seem to realise all you have to do is just be there and let people know that you really don't fancy this. And just because somebody's saying no to something, there's usually a good reason why they don't want something in the area. And figuring out, going along to a meeting and finding out why, and helping other people to find out why is a good thing. And don't buy factory farm meat, ever.
No, I agree with that.
You can starve them out.
Yes. And Just to let everybody know, there'll be links to all these groups at the bottom of this, so everything's there for you. And again, thank you very much indeed. That was wonderful. And give us a hug. Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you so much. You filled that in beautifully.